Hey, welcome to Inside the Game, another installment. And this week, I'm happy to talk about a heavyweight tilt on Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi this weekend. No, I'm not talking about Anaheim versus Toronto. We're talking about the Winnipeg Jets and the Vancouver Canucks, two of the best teams in Canada right now. And I'm happy to be joined by Jets analyst and, of course, team reporter, Jamie Thomas. Jamie, thanks for joining me today.
I'm doing well, man. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's been a long time since I've seen you, but it's a huge pleasure.
Absolutely. And, this is a really surprising conversation in two markets. Vancouver, I'm based here. Nobody
Hmm.
thought they'd be first overall in the league, but they are. They
No.
played very good hockey. And the same with the Jets. When you look at this matchup specifically on Saturday night, from a Jets perspective, it's one of 82. I get that. But what does this
Yeah,
mean for the Winnipeg Jets, this matchup?
I think it means a lot. And, Rick Bowness has pointed out many times that in a long NHL season, you need something to get you going, every night, especially in February. We're closing on the trade deadline. You're past Christmas, past the All-Star break. So why not have a matchup of the two best teams in Canada right now, right? Throw Edmonton in there as well. But for these teams to be where they are at this time of the season, it's a surprise for early on it was a surprise for everybody. Now people want to see what this means and how long. And from a Jets perspective, can they keep this up? They just came off a 5-game winless streak. They've won 2 games in a row. But to answer your question, in prime time on Hockey Night in Canada, it's huge, right? It's like you can't avoid it. Now you're going up against the best team in the National Hockey League, the Vancouver Canucks. So why wouldn't the Jets, especially with the Jets flying into Vancouver early? They went yesterday, that being Thursday, to get used to the time zone and be prepared for this. They're skating in Vancouver on Friday, and of course, in preparation for the big game Saturday.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. And, I've been reading some interviews and watching some interviews with Jets players saying, hey, yeah, don't really want to compare last year versus this year, but hey,
Yeah.
that's our job. What is the biggest
Mm-hmm.
difference, in your opinion, from last year to this year?
Well, we just talked about a little bit off air, my friend, is just that it's structure. It's everything that Rick Bowness, Scott Arniel, and the coaching staff were trying to get the players to buy into last year. And it's easy this coaching staff now, all you have to do is point to last year and say, when you don't play within structure and think defense first, that's what's going to happen. The Jets had to, they were one of the more surprising teams to start the year in 22-23, and then they had to claw their way into the playoffs, all because they just didn't, not everybody was buying in. So everybody's bought in this year. They've realized that you have to play this way to have success. And they've, for the most part, even during their 5-game slide, they weren't playing that terribly. They just couldn't score. So that they were creating chances. They had one bad period in Boston. They'd have a bad period against Toronto. And then obviously they win in those games. So now it's just the only concern Winnipeg has right now is putting the puck in the net. And they had 84 shot attempts the other night against San Jose, almost 40 shots on goal and just one goal. So that's just the way things have been going for Winnipeg right now. They're still defending well. They've only allowed one goal in the last 2 games, but they've only scored 3.
You talk about, scoring goals and that being kind of the big question right now. They tried to address that. Obviously, Sean Monahan coming in from Montreal. It's
Yep.
still early days. What has that fit been like?
It's been great. Clearly, I'm not sure if the Jets were in Elias Lindholm at all. There was rumblings they were, but it was interesting to see how quickly they struck after the Canucks made the deal with the Flames. Right, the Jets. There's no question they needed a second line center. They have that in Sean Monahan, but there's many ways to measure. It's been a good fit. But to Sean Monahan's defense, you're learning a new system. You're coming into a new city. You have new teammates. You have new line mates in Gabriel Velarde and Cole Perfetti who are trying to adapt to what he does and vice versa. But there's more reasons why Sean Monahan was brought in. He was brought in to mentor someone like Cole Perfetti. That was what the Jets loved about Sean Monahan, is how well he got along with the younger players on the Montreal Canadiens. So now you have a guy that can win faceoffs in important positions. He's manning your second line center, and of course providing a mentorship role to someone like Cole Perfetti. So to answer your question, he's been a good fit. They need desperately some offense from their second line. They haven't got it yet, but there are signs that this is going to turn.
In terms of the work that Kevin Cheveldayoff's done, not even going to Sean
Yeah.
Monahan, like going into the offseason, getting Mark
Mm-hmm.
Scheifele, and of course Connor Hellebuck to commit, making that
Yep.
Pierre-Luc Dubois deal, and getting a player in Gabe Velarde who's had some great stretches this season. Now, if you're Kevin Shovel-Dayoff, and most of the work is done for the deadline, I would assume the second line center
Mhm.
role was something he had to address. What do you think? Is there something else on that wish list?
I think a depth defenseman is there, and some people may even argue you need a power play specialist. But I think with the depth the Jets have up front, it doesn't make sense to add somebody else if you're going to lose an asset, which is clearly what you're going to have to do. You don't have a first round pick now in 2024. That's only the second time since the Jets at this point. You never know what happens down the stretch here or heading into the draft. It's only the second time Jets haven't had a first round pick, and a team that is built on drafting and developing. You don't want to be throwing draft picks out in the wind. Now, some may argue this: you win a Stanley Cup, you just throw everything out there like Vegas. But this organization doesn't work like Vegas. They have to be very selective in the draft picks they give up, and somehow they've got some great prospects down the line here. So the only thing I can think of is to add a depth defenseman. Lots of people are saying bring in Chris Tanev, but who knows what that cost is going to be as we get closer and closer to the deadline. The Flames hold all the cards in that situation right now. Noah Hannafin's name is being thrown out there. So I don't know where or how big, is it a 5-6 defenseman? Is it a 7-8 defenseman? It's hard to say. But the only thing I could see them doing, knowing or watching this team over the years and knowing Kevin Shovel-Dayoff and the way he's been, I just think it'd be a depth defenseman. But listen, we didn't know that Paul Stastny was coming in 2018 at all. Like, that was a surprise. So we'll have to wait and see, but a depth defenseman would probably be nice.
Yeah, you're right about draft picks and the way that Shovel-Dayoff works, but there's a
Yeah.
bevy of prospects there as well. A pretty impressive
Yes.
bunch with the Winnipeg Jets. So potential there for maybe a deal if they want to dangle one of those players. Before I let you go here, wanted
Yeah.
to talk. There's been a lot of talk about Connor Hellebuck, and that's justified. He's been alongside Thatcher Demko, another great goalie battle actually on Saturday night as well. Probably to the front runners for the Vezina Trophy this year, but he's a very sung hero. Let's put it that way. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
knows about Connor Hellebuck and how good he
For
is.
sure.
Who's been an unsung hero on this Jets team?
I'll say Vladislav Nemestikov every single time, right? It was when, going back to having to acquire a second line center. Well, that's the role that Vladislav Nemestikov filled in, and he did a great job. And we know this, lots of teams that are built on, multi-tool players, guys that can move up and down your lineup wherever you want. Well, Vladislav Nemestikov's on the Jets' second power play. He's killing penalties. He's on the fourth line. Like that was the first question a lot of people asked. What does Vladislav Nemestikov think of the acquisition of Sean Monahan? And Rick Bowness's answer was, well, he's all in. He wants to win it. He wants to win a Stanley Cup, and he answers it. So I will always say Vladislav Nemestikov. Not that he's a pleasant surprise, but you're always like, okay, this guy's been here, here, and here. Why is that? Well, the answer is because he can do so many things, and Rick Bowness loves the guy. So yeah, 99% of the time, all the time, I will say that is Vladislav Nemestikov, the unsung hero on this hockey team.
Well, Jamie, it's always great to have the Winnipeg Jets on Hockey Night in Canada. So big tilt on Saturday night. Thank you very much for previewing it with me, and should be a good one. I'm excited for this. This is going to be a real good game.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure you're glad it's not at 4:00 Pacific time with the old Hockey Night in Canada set up with we won't say who that was. But anyways, it'll be a great game at 7:00 Pacific time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jamie. Appreciate you joining me, and thank you very much for tuning in as well. If you have any comments on the Winnipeg Jets or the Vancouver Canucks tilt, make sure to comment below, subscribe. We'll catch you next time.